La vie est là qui vous prend par le bras, oh là là là, c'est magnifique. Des jours tout bleus, des baisers lumineux, oh là là là, c'est magnifique. Recently, I wrote my autobiography. I think it's about time, don't you? At my age. But I thought my grandchildren would love to read it. My father and mother, they were wonderful people. They were very wrong for one another. My father, unfortunately, he likes ladies. And of course, something like this doesn't always go very well in a marriage. So they had quite a fight. One day they had a fight outside and they were throwing cigarettes at each other, and one glass hit me right in my thumb and kind of cut it in half. So after that, they never again fought, but they divorced. My father, he had dinner with, of course, a lady, and he decided to go on a Seine, which is the French river in Paris, on a boat, which is astonishing because he hated water. He didn't want to meet, even to go on a beach, to go near the water. But he decided, when she suggested it, to go in a little boat. Well, one of them, obviously, I was told, stood up, so the boat fell over, and he just fell in the water, and I think he probably died of I don't know if it's an attack of apoplexy, we call it in French, a heart attack or whatever, but he drowned. So that was my big, I would say to this day, that was my biggest loss. Because he was a brilliant man, and I needed him. I still do. My mother remarried an aristocrat, a count, Count de Rieux. And from day one, I don't think we got along at all. He was very, very cold and always ready to punish me, mentally, but mostly physically. So it was a very hard time for quite some time. The fact that my mother put up with my stepfather the way she did, even when he was mean to me, I couldn't understand why such weakness in a woman. I know that he was very mean, he could have been very mean, but she had me to consider, and I could not understand, because I, although very young, thought that if I were in her shoes, I would put up with it, not for 1 minute. But she did, and I forgive her because that's the way she was. But I never wanted to be like her, so in a way, it gave me the strength I had to keep on going the way I did. Then there was a war. Well, of course, it was very, very scary, to say the least, because every day there was, if the weather was good between the hours of 2 to 4, we had bombs falling on top of us, you know. You know, we had the German army, of course, over there, and they were quite handsome, you know. I was young. Well, it's amazing how fast you forget the rules of decency when you're young and hot-blooded, you know. A war? What war? Ironically, I found that flirting with a German officer was very funny and excitingly dangerous. Funny because he didn't know I was Jewish, and dangerous for the same reason. I don't try to apologize, nor will I. The quality or lack of it in a man is not in the uniform he wears, but in himself. How I met an American that among many was the one that I really fell for. He was so handsome. And the funny thing is he was German descent. Yeah. He was from Turlock, California. And we came very friendly, and he moved to Yale, which is like about half an hour from where we were in Sanary. Le Lavandou. So I wanted to be near him. So I decided to enlist in the army. Well, Thornton left, of course, for America with the rest of the troops. So I decided, which I'm very sorry for, to marry Albert under false pretenses, which is not nice, but you always get paid for what you do in life, so I did. And he married me because I was pretty. I married him because I wanted to be next to Thornton. So we both got screwed, let's face it, you know. And but it was not his fault, it was my fault. So we came to America, and I wrote to Thornton, but he never got the letters. Never did. Never. Well, before Thornton left back to the state, we were together, and I got married 2 days after that. Yeah. Now, I found out I was pregnant later on, and I didn't know, you know, but I suspected it was from Thornton. So when I wrote to him, I never mentioned at all the baby, although when the baby was born, he looked just like him. And today, you see my son come in, and you think it's Thornton. I got news that my grandmother was very ill and asking for me. So I wanted to go and see her and bring Brian with me, my son, so she could see him. And my husband agreed. But then, a few days before the trip, he canceled it and didn't want me to go. So she died without seeing me again. And that really did something to me. So I decided then to make my own money and have my own life, to stop something that was a lie anyway. I didn't love him, and by then he knew it, so there was no point to it. So I decided to go into show business. I had a good voice, I didn't look bad, I didn't look pretty good when I was all dressed up. So I decided to go into show business. And so I could become independent. This is a hard part of my life. I deeply regret it. As I look back, I see that I was not a very agreeable person or woman. Since my life did not become mostly about me, myself, and I remember with deep, deep regret and shame the time that I had to tell Albert that I was leaving. He was not a man of violent reaction, or no, not at all. I still see him with hurt in his eyes telling me to think about Brian, whom he was holding in his arms. I can still see my little boy looking at me when I left. I must have been a hell of a bitch in those days, that's for sure. Or perhaps a very cold-hearted woman. But I can say that you do always pay later on in life for all the wrongs you've done. Of course, my poor husband was better off without me, there's no question about it. But I can still see my little boy with his hand in his mouth, not understanding, but feeling what was going on. How could I? It was unforgivable, and my conscience, which I acquired later on in life, made sure of that. I paid and paid for it, and I still do. The falling leaves drift by my window. The autumn leaves are red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands. All these dresses were made by a wonderful Italian dressmaker by the name of Mabel. She did many actresses and singers' dresses. This is a picture of Bob Hope and myself when he came to see my show at the Shamrock Hilton in Houston, Texas. He always loved to catch up new people. This is Mickey Mantle and Casey Stengel were there. They invited me to see I call it their show. I don't know, it's not a show, it's really, their football. And it was absolutely wonderful. They caught my show and invited me to dinner, and it was absolutely wonderful. And my grandson is so happy to have that picture. In the back of my book, I called Life a magnificent bitch, and it really is a magnificent bitch. It's magnificent in so many ways, and so terrible in other ways. That the best definition for me to call life, it's a magnificent bitch. I wish you bluebirds in the spring to give your heart a song to sing, and with a kiss, but more than this, I wish you love, and in July a lemonade to cool you in some leafy glades. I wish you health, but more than wealth, I wish you love.